Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien. Lead! And Livingston have the lead! Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello, you're listening to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to West Lothian's finest football team and Scottish Cup quarter-finalists for the first time since 2005, Livingston Football Club, and proudly sponsored by Strana Apparel. My name's Euan, and today I'm joined by Angus. That winning feeling watching our men's team on Saturday, unfortunately I was away, so I missed it, which is absolutely devastating, but certainly a good afternoon over at Firhill, and we were bang on the money. Firhill for thrills.
Yeah, absolutely. What an afternoon. It was fantastic to see. We've been starved of a lot of joy this season. So, you take every kind of win that you get and you like fully appreciate that. Never mind kind of like in the circumstances that we did it as well. So yeah, very, very happy to be talking about the game on this podcast episode today as well. And yeah, I guess you're just gonna I guess the team are just gonna have to win the quarterfinal so you can make sure you can get along to that as well.
Yeah, well, I'm actually free that weekend, so I apologise to everyone that were out the cup, but we'll come on to talk about our cup quarter-final draw later on as well. But as always, search for Talk Livi on your preferred podcast streaming site where you can follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can also catch up on all our episodes that we've done to date as well.
We'll kick things off by discussing how Livi reached their first Scottish Cup quarter-final since 2005 with a dramatic comeback and late win against Partick Thistle at Firhill.
Our women's side were in action, but it would end in back-to-back league defeats for the ladies, with defeat against Boroughmuir Thistle.
And finally, we'll look ahead to the visit of St Mirren as the Lions go in search of points to try and rescue their Premiership campaign.
As we mentioned, it was certainly Firhill for thrills, as despite going 2-0 down, a double from Joel Newbley and a last gasp header from Teti Yengi in extra time would see the Lions clinch a spot in the last 8 of the Scottish Cup for the first time since 2005. Angus, in a season of what has just been pretty much do or struggle in the league this year, it's really good to have a little moment like that, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think we were talking about this kind of like after the game, and this is the beauty of supporting like a kind of like a team like Livingston. Things can be tough at times, but when like stuff like this happens, you appreciate it so much more. I don't think that there's going to be many teams who celebrate a single victory like that as we did on Saturday there. And I think we get a lot of shit for obviously having like a small like Livingston fan base and stuff like that. But if anybody took that game on Saturday, that is one complaint that they can't have, and that's a big credit that goes to everybody for getting through to Maryhill to take in that game there. The fans, it was just so good to be a part of. Full kind of away end, atmosphere, great, creating a lot of noise and stuff like that. Just like togetherness, and that's exactly kind of what we've been needing. And I think that togetherness was even with the players as well. Once you look at the kind of the full-time scenes, you look at the likes of like Andrew Shinney, like at the final whistle, like what that kind of meant to him, Stephen Kelly coming over and stuff like that, just soaking it in and really, really loving it. Yeah, it's one of those kind of games that's going to stick with me for forever because, you can't win it in much better circumstances. It did easily look as if it wasn't going to be one of those joyous afternoons for us, as I think we're going to go play Partick there, sitting third in the championship, and Davy's been very vocal about how he doesn't feel as if there's too much of a big gap between the sides in like kind of the top half of the championship and the ones in the bottom half of the Premiership. And I guess there's kind of a bit of a fair point. Obviously we've played Raith Rovers and Partick Thistle, and there's not been an awful lot between the two sides. Morton have put out Motherwell, Airdrie put out St Johnstone. So I think we knew it was going to be a tough game. And I think obviously the added part of us knowing kind of what Partick Thistle are a little bit about, with, a number of ex-players playing for them and stuff like that. And obviously just our form in general. But I think that it's something that really set the game up as probably the tie of the weekend. It's the two teams ranked closest to one another. One kind of in bad league form, one kind of on the up, trying to secure like a playoff place. But Sporting didn't deem so, Euan. We had a wee chat about that beforehand, which is a bit strange. They'd rather show the routine wins of Rangers against Ayr United or Kilmarnock against Cove Rangers rather than a proper in-depth look at a 5-goal thriller. But any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of said this to you, like if you compare it with something like Match of the Day, for example. Match of the Day, the closing the title, they will show what has been the best game of the day. Like, for example, their FA Cup coverage, it was Maidstone. I think the last round it was Maidstone winning at Ipswich. It was the biggest story of the day. It was the game of the day, the upset of the round. Quite clearly, just looking across the board, our game was the best game in the cup that afternoon. And as you say, it gets a kind of wee 5-minute package, whilst a routine win for Rangers at Ibrox against their United gets, a good 15 to 20 minutes worth of coverage. It is that way that Scottish football is so tailored towards the old firm. But yeah, you talked on the game, like we mentioned beforehand, that we thought there would be goals in it, there would be chances in it at both ends, and certainly it appeared that way from the get-go. To be brutally honest, I don't think there's a great deal we can do about the opening goal from Partick Thistle. It's an absolute worldie from Kerr McEnroy. He stumped it from a good 35 yards, and he's hit it with some venom as well. And I don't think there's a great deal you can do about that. As I say, I wasn't able to take in the game, but have watched kind of the highlights, and it looks like we should have been level before the break with Tete Yengi having a goal chopped off. But for the life of me, from the replays I've seen of that, I can't see a great deal as to why that was chalked off. And Stephen Kelly also had a decent effort, which is it Jamie Sneddon in goal for Partick Thistle managed to get down to his right hand side and tip wide. But we were certainly making it an uphill task on the afternoon. Aidan Fitzpatrick got a goal. It's kind of all our own issues, and it kind of stems from Michael McGovern with a poor kick out initially, and then I think he needs to do a lot better for the actual strike. It's gone under his body. And I believe there was someone in the away end that chucked away their season ticket at this point. Am I right in saying?
Well, Euan, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I know exactly who this person is.
Name names.
Huh?
Name names.
I'll just say maybe one of the captains of our supporters team would be hanging his head in shame right now. Yeah, throwing his season ticket away, pleading for it back in the end, I believe, and pleading to get into the director's box, which hasn't escaped the attention of David Martindale as well, it seems, based on that post-match interview, which is quite funny. But I think the guy's calmed down now, realised his kind of ways, and is maybe going to reconsider those kind of thoughts the next time. But I think with that though as well. So obviously we went down 2-0, and I don't think Saturday, like the first kind of hour or so, was necessarily a terrible performance. There's been a whole lot more performances during the season where you could probably say, yeah, we deserve to be 2-0 down. One of them's a great strike, and the other one, yeah, the goalkeeper should probably do better with it. But I don't think that we were out the game. It wasn't as if like Partick were like battering us or anything like that. We were doing an all right bit with the ball and stuff like that. It did just seem as if it was going to be one of those afternoons though again where we're getting no stroke of luck. I mean, guys drived it in from from distance, and then a kind of sloppy goal to concede at that. And I think this is where, the players, who have probably taken a lot of shit this season deserve a lot of credit because they really, really stepped up. Joel Newbley really, really stepped up and deserves massive credit for that performance on Saturday. It was like the Joel Newbley that we seen at the start of that season, the start of last season. He was magnificent, and it all just came from being direct, give him the ball, get him to go and take on the young left back Milne, force him to do something. I believe Milne ended up getting like on a yellow card, and it's just like, right, just keep putting the ball back down there. And to add to that as well, it wasn't as if we were getting the ball and we're like, right, let's get it to Newbley and let's just hope that he does something. Andrew Shinnie, Jason Holt, Jamie Brandon, they were supporting the big man. They weren't just kind of leaving him to kind of go and do something. And I think that that's something that ended up helping us massively, was that it wasn't predictable in that way. Obviously, we were trying to get the ball to Newbley so he could go and do stuff and attack teams, which could then be a little bit easy for them to go, right, let's just put two players on him. Everybody was running off of Newbley and making it so that we had other threats. And, you look at we get back into the game from a corner kick, which is very dubious. It clearly hits Anderson before it goes out for the corner. We're probably due a decision, in all honesty, even if you just look at our decisions in Glasgow, where, we've been robbed. Well, we've conceded goals against Rangers for the more ridiculous reasons. So maybe it was time that we got a little bit luck going in our favour that way. But the second goal as well, absolutely tremendous. Just what we're saying there. Get the ball to Newbley. Players going in and supporting him. It's Andrew Shinnie who links up well with him, plays him in. Tremendous finish from Newbley. A good old fashioned kind of towboat, in all honesty. And that's just kind of what you need, the power to do that. But from that, even just from that first goal, it was basically kind of all us. There was a chance where striker came on, is it?
Yeah, Adaloy, yeah.
Being at the game, Euan, I seen like the highlight of this. Like it was weird, but like at the game, it just looked as if he like kind of crossed it, but then just all of a sudden it just dipped, and we're like, oh no. Fortunately, it hit the woodwork and bounced away for McGovern to kind of end up tackling the player, kind of looking to get the rebound. But other than that, I think that we were in firm control, and the stuff that we were playing was really, really nice. We were picking up on every second ball. We were so hungry to win every kind of challenge. We were patient with our play. We were recycling it. We weren't forcing it, and we were getting our key players on the ball in the dangerous areas, like of Newbley, likes of Stephen Kelly, and Tete Yengi as well. And I think something that was really picked up in the post-match interview was about how fit we were. You would not have thought that Livingston were the team who'd played on the Wednesday night there, with the way that we were marauding up the park, winning every second ball, retaining it. It seemed as if, Partick Thistle had maybe played 2 games beforehand, and that's what kind of was the reason why we were kind of coming into it. But yeah, fair play to the players. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a goal before extra time, but it created a spectacular finale. We'd forced the goalkeeper Jamie Sneddon into making a good couple of saves, but again, we weren't discredited by anything. We kept on, doing the right things. We were direct. We were putting the ball into dangerous areas, and that's what we get the goal. Joel Newbley lays it back to Brandon, who had an absolutely tremendous game. Fires it in for Tete Yengi to delightfully headed it into the bottom corner, and then absolute scenes in the away end, which was just absolutely amazing to be a part of. Just a very joyous afternoon once we started being a bit more direct and stuff like that with our attacking play, which we've been crying out for this all season. It's one of those things that's a bit bittersweet, because it's like we know that the players are capable of this, but for now we can only hope that it's just something that's going to continue, and hopefully it's a massive, massive confidence boost for a number of those players.
Yeah, we spoke about it in the last round as well, how we had to overcome some setbacks in the game, a couple of players coming off injured against Wraith Rovers, and then the penalty miss as well. It's kind of been the same in this game, because we had Pittman come off early doors in the game for Andrew Shinnie. Sean Donnellan had to come off as well. Sangari came on, and obviously there was a bit of a switch up in the back four. And then obviously going 2-0 down in the game. Again, the players have shown a bit of character, and we kind of talked about it from the Kilmarnock game. I don't think you can turn around and say that these players aren't playing for the manager. They've shown really good character in the game to get back in it. As you say, the goal it's clearly a goal kick, and I've seen a lot of Partick Thistle fans talking about an agenda against Partick Thistle. I always do find this really funny when folk in the lower reaches of Scottish football, our own fans included, talk about how there's an agenda against Livingston or an agenda against Partick Thistle. It's not an agenda, just the officials aren't great. That's pretty much the gist of it. And if you look at the goal we had disallowed, and comment to talk about the clear penalty we were denied in extra time as well from Jason Holt. I mean, I think you can turn around and say that we didn't get the stroke of luck as well in the game, but the ball's come off Bruce Anderson. Obalai's forced a really good save from Jamie Snedden, and as you say, Newbley's poked it home and got us back in the game, and we've got a good bit of time in normal time to try and get that equaliser, and it's really good football for the equaliser as well. Stephen Kelly in that position we've been crying out for him to be in all season, that kind of number 10 spot, picks out Newbley initially on the right-hand side, and as you say, guys getting in support of him, creating little overloads on the wide areas to allow Newbley to almost give little give and goes to get in behind, and it's a great ball by Shinnie. Milne switched off and allowed Newbley in behind him, and it's a cracking finish, as you say, that toe poke into the top corner, kind of in off the frame of the goal as well, and going into extra time. Again, you're talking about that patience in their play and working the ball into areas. We've spoke about it all season, how we've been direct, but it's just centre half trying to hit a target man up top and the likes of Curtis Guthrie. Whilst since the winter break, we've been working the ball into good crossing areas and getting balls into the box that are going to cause teams a problem. That's been the big difference for me, is that yes, we're putting balls into the box or balls into areas, but it's from dangerous areas that we're getting the ball into the box. And Brandon, all the paces on the ball, it's a terrific header by Tete Yengi. All it needs is that glance into the far corner. And as you say, kind of watching the coverage from the club's social media team, the scenes in the away end, and certainly guys in my group chat, I think Callum Waugh, who used to help out on the podcast, he compared it to when we had that late comeback in our last great escape at Cowdenbeath, when Jordan White scored a double after going 1-0 down, and Jordan White scored, kind of in the last 5-10 minutes of the game to get a really crucial win. Only difference being this is obviously in the cup, but it kind of really had an igniting factor in our season, and the cup's proved to be a little bit of a release. I think you talk about, it's been really nice actually on social media seeing just the fans happy.
Yeah.
I feel like our support's been really, really divided this season, and I can absolutely understand why. But it was nice to almost see a bit of a united front from our supporters. It was also really good to shut down this Partick Thistle redemption tour as well. I was quite delighted about that and managed to get a wee tweet out about that on the podcast account. But it was just really good to see it, almost that unison with the supporters, and I think that's desperately needed between now and the end of the season. And it just shows you how much the cup can be that little bit of a release from what has been a catastrophic league campaign so far. And we kind of mentioned in it in the preview, there's been examples of that and how it's ignited our season. That, for example, that last Scottish Cup quarter-final, albeit we lost it, but it was a performance that managed to dig us out a hole that season in that second half at Tynecastle. Look back to the Challenge Cup win. We looked dead and buried in the league that year, won the Challenge Cup, and then it ignited this almighty turnaround. Included that result I was talking about at Cowdenbeath as well. I think we won at home to Falkirk during the week after winning the Challenge Cup. So it just shows you how this result, and you're hoping it does have that igniting factor, because we're coming into 4 huge league games, starting off against St Mirren, but there's so many positive. We scored 3 goals away from home, all the goals coming from open play. We're seeing a team, it's just, I get this feeling about this team, there is something in this group of players that's capable, and this is, as you said earlier, it's that frustration from us as supporters, knowing fine well that there's a group of players in that changing room that are more than capable. And having seen them play the last few weeks, playing a slightly different system that I feel is a better fit for the group of players that we've got, it's getting guys like Joel Newpley's looked like it's night and day watching Joel play in this system compared to what we've seen from the start of this season from him. It's night and day. Maybe there's a factor that he's playing for a move. I don't care. If we get a Joel Newbley that plays a bit like Alan Forrest did, for example, in his final season, second half of the season, looking to try and get a good move out of it, I don't give a fuck, to put it blunt. But if it gets that Joel Newbley on the park, playing in his natural position, creating issues for teams, I'm all for it. And you just need it. You need that result to kick on into the league now. And we need to start piling the pressure on Ross County. But is our cup run short-lived? Is that moment just tarnished after we saw the cup draw on Sunday, first out the hat, away to Celtic at Celtic Park? I mean, from a financial perspective, and I've seen John Ward comment on it on social media, the game's probably worth close to 400 grand for the football club, and given our legal issues of late in terms of a few court cases here and there, I'm sure that financial boost for the club would be massive, regardless if it means us going out the cup. But yeah, that's probably the biggest positive you can take from that cup draw, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You're looking at, well, how many Celtic fans show up to a Scottish Cup game when they're not playing too well? Maybe closer to like 30,000, but we'll say, a split of a 40,000 gate or something like that. You're guaranteed to be one of the, is it called Viaplay?
Viaplay, yeah, we're
Yeah,
absolutely nailed on for TV coverage.
aye.
Viaplay only cover the old firm's Scottish Cup runs.
Yeah, so like I think the quarterfinals are all guaranteed to be on TV regardless. I would imagine there's a little bit more money coming from Viaplay than if you were on the BBC on like a Friday night and stuff like that as well. And then obviously just the prize money in general. So, it's one of those ones where it's like, ugh, can't be bothered going to Parkhead and stuff like that. But as you say, it is very, very crucial for club in terms of like finances and stuff like that. But who knows, Celtic aren't in the most inspiring of forms right now. There's been bigger cup upsets.
Well, what you're hoping is that we manage, to be honest, it's more important that we do string those results together in the league between now and
Yeah.
then. But if you do manage to go and get a couple of decent results between now and that cup tie, then it'll be a different Livingston team going to Celtic Park probably. And I think there's an element of it where it is a one-off cup tie. You maybe do need to just have a little bit more of a go, or try and cause Celtic some problems when it does come to that. But obviously there's a lot of football to be played between now and then. But let's just try and enjoy the moment of a victory for a change. Let's enjoy the manner of the victory. And as I say, I think it's really crucial that the fans show that unity that was shown over the weekend after that result for the remainder of the season, because the players desperately need that sort of backing. And I know there's already a lot of chat about trying to get as many fans up to Ross County in a couple of weeks' time, which will be obviously a crucial game in terms of the outcome of our season. So it would be really good to have that sort of noisy away support in their numbers up in Dingwall for that game. But we'll come on to talk about a game before that, which is at home to St Mirren. We're delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi. UK based with a Swedish soul, we are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Inspired by terrace culture, lifestyle and music, all their clothing is designed using quality materials and workmanship to combine the very best style and fit. All of this means you get a premium quality fashion at affordable prices while enjoying a simple and secure service.
As a bonus for Talk Livi listeners, you can get 10% off your order using the code TalkLivi at the checkout. We'll also have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for those too. And thanks to Sterner for sponsoring Talk Livi.
The Lionesses would return to league action against Boroughmuir Thistle, and despite Jen Dodds pulling one back for the ladies, the game would finish 2-1, and it would prove to be back-to-back league defeats in SWPL2. Angus, quite a disappointing result given the drama of their Scottish Cup tie the week before.
Yeah, disappointing result. Probably just more so a disappointing performance overall. You mentioned that game last week against Garth Cairn with the drama and just the kind of battling performance it was to get to the penalties and then to obviously win it. You look at last week there, we went down to 10 players, adversity, we conceded, a goal straight into like extra time in that as well, but we continued to battle with for one another and stuff like that. And, I thought it was like a really, really good team performance there. But this performance just goes back to, I mean, a couple of weeks ago we talked about the St Johnstone game and we were just flat, just didn't, really kind of do anything of note. I'm not entirely sure kind of what kind of happened. We're obviously missing Courtney McAvoy due to suspension, but we're also missing Raywin Murphy as well. And I think that those two players can make a big difference in the midfield just because of their energy levels. We did end up playing with, kind of like four people in the middle of the park, but it seemed to be quite weird though that we had bodies in that area. However, we didn't keep the ball that much in the middle of the park, or Boroughmuir were still finding plenty of time in the middle to, kind of pick passes and all that. We didn't really kind of get near them. I think that we were second to kind of a lot of the balls and everything like that as well. We do go 1-0 down quite early on as well, again, which has happened quite a few times this year through unfortunate circumstances. There's a foul on a Boroughmuir player, but the ball loops behind our defence and we kind of stop thinking that there's going to be a free kick. And the young lassie, Abigail Verghese, just runs through basically, rounds Molly Reeve. And it's unfortunate from Kayla Healy that she does tremendously to get back to make a tackle, but it diverts it into her own net. Unfortunately, not really much more she could do. It was our best attempts to kind of clear the ball away. But yeah, that first half was really kind of poor in that kind of way. We weren't keeping the ball at all. Boroughmuir were just a lot more hungrier, it seemed, in all honesty. I think that they didn't create like a host of chances, the likes of, Jess Tash at the back there with Kayla as well. We're like soaking up everything, but we just didn't do anything of note with the ball ourselves in the first half. I think our first chance really came after the hour mark. I think Beth Mackay had one, but 60 minutes at home against a team who's kind of close to you, I think you'll be disappointed that you've not given them a bit more of a game. Boroughmuir, I don't think you can have any complaints that they won the game, in all honesty. There was only kind of one team looking to score for the best part of like the first 70 minutes. We just really struggled to kind of knock anything about or, create anything of note. And they obviously made it 2-0 through probably what's one of the goals of the season that I've seen so far, to be honest. The Lassie Verghese again picks the ball up, carries it so far, kind of jinx past like 3 or 4 kind of defenders. Nobody's able to kind of get a foot on the ball and to take it off of her. And, she fires it into the bottom corner tremendously well. And, that gives you like a mountain of a task to kind of do. I don't think we can have many complaints about being 2-0 down, in all honesty, which is, I don't know, I think it'll be a bit disappointing because we've played Boroughmuir twice this season and there's not been a lot between the teams. I think the first one was 0-0, the second one was 1-1. But we didn't seem to kind of compete in that way, I wouldn't say. The bright spark for me of this game, Euan, is the introduction of Jen Dodds coming on. And I think that Jen, really kind of turned the game into kind of our favour just by kind of basic kind of midfield play. She was getting the ball down and it wasn't just, let's try and get it into their final third and, hope something kind of falls to us. The recycling of the ball, kind of what we talked about like in the men's game there, the kind of patient build-up. It was like, bring the ball down, showing that kind of composure. Is there a pass on that I can go to them? If not, we'll bring it back. We'll work it to a different area. And that's something that really, really added a lot more kind of composure. And it was the first kind of real times that we were building up plays. And that's how we ended up getting the goal. The ball ended up breaking down. Anna Dickoff picks it up on the right wing. And it's an absolutely tremendous assist from Anna. I think she beats 3 players, carries it to the byline, cuts it back. And it's Jen who's there. With our striker instincts to tap home. But I think it may just be an element of a little bit too little, too late. If we had maybe another, I think we scored in the 80th minute. If we had maybe another 20 minutes or something to play, I think that we maybe would have went and goal and would have maybe snatched the victory. We're very close to doing so. Beth Mackay puts a cross in and Lauren Evans heads it on and Emma McFadden at the back post isn't able to divert it in. I think if we'd scored that, it might have been a little bit of a robbery, in all honesty, to take a point from it. I don't think that over the course of the game we really merited, kind of anything from it. we did start to play well in that kind of last kind of 15 minutes or so, but over the course of things, I think that Boroughmuir were simply the better team, and it's a disappointing result at home to them.
Yeah, as you mentioned, very disappointing result given a couple of weeks ago beat probably our closest rivals in terms of looking at that promotion playoff in Kilmarnock, and those back-to-back defeats have proved pretty costly given Kilmarnock have now opened up a gap of 4 points between ourselves and them. Boroughmuir have also closed the gap to 1 point as well in SWPL2, so they've brought themselves right back into the mix for that off the back of that result. So it's a case of just almost having a little bit of a reset, isn't it, after this kind of setback in the league and just try to get back to what had been a really good start to the season.
Yeah, it's been kind of like a weird return from the winter break, because as you say, like the Kilmarnock game and that Gartcairn game are the ones that you look at and it's like you've really battled for each other and stuff there. But then you've also had the performance against St Johnstone and then this one against Boroughmuir kind of like on either side of them. So I'm not quite sure what's kind of transpired there. I don't know if there's just, do we need a little bit of a kick up the backside at times to kind of get into things? You look at that Kilmarnock game, it was just an absolute battle, and terrible conditions. The Gartcairn one obviously went into good detail last week. I don't know, we just conceded that kind of early goal and it just felt very flat on Sunday. But yeah, you've got to kind of put that behind you. More things. I think we've just got to. I really like seeing how that kind of last 15 minutes we were recycling the ball, keeping it, not kind of forcing it, actually kind of building up proper kind of attacks and stuff like that. Maybe that's something that we need to do a little bit more from the start. Even like going into a game, if you're conceding goals quite early and stuff like that, the first 15 minutes, let's just keep possession. Let's just make the opposition run about and stuff like that for a little bit. Let's get comfortable on the ball. Let's play a little bit of a game like that ourselves. And then we can kind of see what areas we can maybe exploit or that kind of target, if it's the flanks or anything like that. But I think as well, we did miss 6 players in total from the game just there. I don't know if that would have had like a big effect. As mentioned, you got Courtney and Raywin, who are probably 2 of your nailed on centre mids. Brian A. Ross was also unavailable. To add to that, Sharon Hughes, Lee, Fiona Walker, Lucy Brown still kind of like injured as well. So a lot of kind of players there who could have maybe helped shape a bit of like a kind of formation change or change like different personnel and stuff like that. But hopefully we'll be able to put that one behind us, and yeah, we can get back there with a tough game against Glasgow Women next Sunday.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, that's maybe something that has affected that bit of fluidity with the team in that particular game against Boroughmuir. The fact that they have had a few players missing, a few of which have been pretty much nailed on certainties to be in amongst the team. Bryony Ross is featured a lot this year, Courtney McAvoy, Raymond Murphy, in particular in the middle of the park in terms of having that little bit of fluidity in terms of how we play. But you mentioned game coming up against Glasgow Women. They're sitting 6th in the table. They're kind of hovering just above those relegation playoff and automatic relegation spots, having been relegated last year from SWPL 1. Although we did go there earlier in the season, and it would be a late bit of magic from Beth Mackay with an absolute peach of a goal, which should be down for goal of the season contender. But big game for them in terms of trying to get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Glasgow Women, the resurgence of kind of like Gartcairn below them will make Glasgow Women very aware of what could happen if they could be easily dragged into, sitting in the bottom 2 teams in the league. So I'm sure that they'll be fired up for this as well. I think the 2 games that we've played against them have been relatively close as well. And they'll probably be looking at the results and seeing that, teams have got it as recently and obviously come out firing. But hopefully we can amend some things so we can have a performance more closer to the Gartcairn one next weekend. Next up for the Lions is the visit of St Mirren as Livi go in search of some crucial Premiership points. 17 without a win. Can we end the endless run here? The endless run?
It feels like an endless run.
Yeah.
I believe that was winless, Angus. But no, I mean, again, we spoke about this on last week's podcast, and how many times have we come up against a team that's been 10 games without a win? I think Kilmarnock actually when we played them earlier in the season, had gone 7 or 8 without a win, and then they played ourselves. How many times have we come up against these teams and you're 17 without a win? Surely the run's
It's our
got to
time.
end. It's got to end at some point. But I mean, we're coming up against a team who, to put it bluntly, have had a very good season in St Mirren. They've had a couple of wee downturns in results, but they always seem to drag a result out when they're needing it and kind of takes that little bit of pressure off. But right in the mix for European football this year, kind of sitting fifth in the league just now, albeit Dundee Hibs have games in hand on them. But, I think looking at St Mirren's upcoming fixtures, it's a bit like ourselves. It's games that they will be looking to target points. And I think on the flip side, I think Kilmarnock have on paper a tougher run of fixtures. So they'll be looking at it as a really good opportunity to try and get back into fourth place in terms of trying to secure, the highest league finish in God knows how long. So it's going to be a really tough game. I think our last win against St Mirren came back, I think, early 2020, if I'm right in saying, in the league, which was when Stephen Lawless scored a penalty, Lyndon Dykes scored, we won 2-1 in a midweek game. Our last victory against them was the League Cup semi-final where Scott Robinson scored that famous goal at Hampden. Unfortunately, none of us were able to be there to actually witness it in the flesh, but it's going to be a really, really tough game. You know what you're coming up against with St Mirren. I think I saw an interesting stat where it was teams with the biggest percentage of long balls played in the league. And I think St Mirren have actually played more than ourselves, but let's be honest, they've done it to much better effect, haven't they, this season, given their league position. You can, as I say, you kind of know what to expect with St Mirren. They've been playing predominantly a 3-4-3 this year. Certainly speaking to a couple of St Mirren fans, they think because they've maybe gone to 3 up top rather than 2, it's left them a little bit more open at times, playing like that. But, they've still got, as I say, a very strong start to the campaign. And I think one thing that's helped with that start to the campaign is last year, I think they still struggled a lot away from home at times. It was predominantly down to their really strong home record that got them into the top 6. However, they've got a better balance in terms of their split on points this year. I think they've won 4, drawn 2, lost 6 on the road this year. So they've been a lot more effective away from home. That includes a couple of impressive victories just recently there at Easter Road, winning 3-0, 3-0 up at half time, winning 3-0 up at Pittodrie as well, I think just before the winter break. So they have been very effective this year, and kind of players that have certainly stood out for them. Greg Kilty's a player I really like. He's chipped in both on goals and assists front. He's, I think, got 4 in the league, 3 assists, 4 goals in the league, 3 assists. And Mikael Manderon kind of epitomises that typical centre forward that Stephen Robinson likes. Big, physical, can bring guys into play. He's chipped in with 5 goals this year. And given the fact that they play with those wing backs, I think Ryan Strain's kind of been a big miss for them this year. I'm surprised that actually he was still at St Mirren this year. Was really impressed with him last season. But Scott Tanser on the left-hand side has had a very productive season again. He's chipped in with 4 assists. So again, you'll be expecting a lot of crosses into our box. Kind of typically you face that when you come and play St Mirren. But it's a game that we absolutely, absolutely have to be targeting points from, because our next 4 or 5 games in particular, it is absolutely last chance saloon. And the next 4 games, I think we need to, as a minimum, take 7, probably closer to 9 points. Anything between 7 and 9 points from the next 4 games, and I think it gives us a right good chance. But it is that point where that winless run in the league, it has to end at some point. And Saturday's going to be a very tough game, but I do think in the grand scheme of things, and I think results have shown that over the last few years, there's very little to choose between these 2 teams. And even the games this season, the one each draw earlier in the campaign at Livi, it was a last-ditch equaliser. Even the 1-0 game at St Mirren, I don't think there was a great deal between the sides. I think had we shown a little bit more positivity in terms of how we approached the game, I think we might have been able to pick something up from it, because at that point St Mirren had kind of had a bit of a downturn in results. So we need to go in, focus on ourselves once again, focus on what we've been doing really well, in recent weeks in terms of the opportunities we've been creating, and here's hoping we can, as I say, end that run. And given the lift we got at the weekend in that cup tie, I can't imagine how much a win in the league would give the players a lift.
Yeah, it's time's running out and stuff like that. I think it's maybe important that we kind of take each game kind of as it comes. Like maybe we've been building more pressure by being like, oh, like we need like this amount and like from the next like X amount of games and stuff like that. Although that is probably still true, let's just see what happens. We'll take it one at a time. And it's a good opportunity here. I think the games against St Mirren at home, yeah, we've been very, very close. Like the ones that we've been very, very poor in the last kind of couple of years have been at their place. So, hopefully we can get a good, strong performance and just be direct against them. Let's go and cause them some issues because I believe that you definitely can. But yeah, I think in terms of our own lineup, I think that team that played against Partick Thistle that maybe finished the game is maybe what you'll end up seeing. It's probably not too far off of our strongest TBI, like Penrice or Montano and left back, but both of them are going to be unavailable. So it'd be good to see the 4-2-3-1 persist. I know that, at times against St Mirren, they'll match up with the back five in that. I wouldn't see that happen in all honesty. Let's get a forward line where we've got even like Anderson, Yengi, Nupley, and like Stephen Kelly, in their final third causing them issues and stuff like that. Let's make them go on the back foot and think about what they have to do. Yeah, is there any things in the team that you would like to see in particular?
Yeah, obviously left back's probably one position you're desperately wanting James Penrice back available. I don't know what the script is with Penners in terms of why he's missed the last few games, but that would be interesting to see how we set up there. I know Jamie Brandon's done very well in the last couple of games where he's had to step in at left back. Whether that continues, it was Michael Nottingham at right back, I believe, to start the game at Partick Thistle, similar to the game at Rugby Park. Be interesting to see what's happening with Sean Donnellan. Obviously, he came off at Firhill. Whether that was more precautionary and whether he features again. So it'll be interesting to see how our back four sets up. In terms of the forward areas, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see David Carson come back into the team. He was, I think, obviously missed the game due to being involved with Inverness earlier in the season, I assume, in the cup competitions. I was really, really impressed with him in the game at Rugby Park. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back in a side alongside Jason Holt for that game. Very combative, and I think you need that type of player when you're playing against St Mirren. In terms of in the forward areas, I'm kind of similar to you. I want to see us get our creative influences on the park. I'd love to see a three in behind the likes of Mackay, Kelly, Bradley in there to try and open up St Mirren. Obviously Joel's been playing very well recently, so I wouldn't be against Joel obviously being in that three in behind. And I think Tete Yengi, to be brutally honest with you, kind of deserves his spot in the team at this moment in time as the number 9. As much as we're massive fans of Bruce Anderson, Bruce's form hasn't been great, albeit you could say that about the whole team. But I think Tete Yengi's performance both at Rugby Park was very good. He's obviously managed to grab an important goal at the weekend there. So Davey always talks about there's a way in and out the team, and I feel Tete Yengi's certainly played himself into the team as of recent weeks. So, and again, if you're looking at it from a game plan point of view, I think Tete Yengi's probably a better fit for this game, given how solid kind of St Mirren's back three is. Gogic at the centre of that three as of late as well. Physically, probably a better fit for playing in this game. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of fits in the back four based off of players being out injured and things like that. As I say, I think David Carson will come back in, and it will be interesting to see what three goes with him behind. But you could have Joe one side, Stephen Bradley one side with Kelly, and is that 10? And I think that gives you a lot of creativity and threat in behind Tete Yengi.
The physicality one's probably, I think that's going to influence a lot of the decisions, I would imagine. You look at the back line of like St Mirren, you can imagine that Davy's going to select players who are going to be able to defend both blocks and, Nubley and Yengi or like that. You're just kind of hoping that way, though, that we're not focusing too much on that kind of stuff, and it's, how can we hurt them, which, both those players can definitely do in an attacking sense as well. But Yeah, I think it's just good now to be like in an area where we feel like we've got, a decent kind of amount of options that we feel could hurt a team, which has maybe felt like a little while ago. Hopefully we can remain solid at the back, don't give away any kind of cheap goals, because that's been such a massive thing that's caused us issues this season. But yeah, I guess we'll kind of go into predictions. Euan, what are your score thoughts for the game against St Mirren?
I'm going for it. I'm going for the run to come to an end. 2-0 Livingston.
2-0. Oof, a clean sheet as well.
2-0 Livingston I'm going for. It has to come to an end at some point. And I feel like there's going to be a more positive vibe about the stadium. I feel like we're going to get a bit more behind the team off the back of that result at Firhill. I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling that it's coming to an end, Angus. Watch this come back and haunt me. What about yourself?
I'm going to go for 1-1. I think that the games against St Mirren, especially at home, there's not really much that separates the sides. I can easily see this being, another just a draw at the Tony Mac.
When was the last time I predicted a league win? I think I predicted one for Ross County, but prior to that, I mean, it's months. It's got to be months since I last predicted a league win prior to that. So the fact that I've gone almost back-to-back, close to back-to-back games in the league with a victory, it tells you how much faith has been installed in me again with this team as of late. We're kind of changing that system. We're talking about that as well. We're talking about not fitting players into a system. We're talking about players will be playing in a position that's suited to them, actually posing a threat in games. It's, as I say, I've got a little bit of belief, and I just really hope it doesn't come back and haunt me. But look, Saturday's a massive game for the football club, as is pretty much every game between now and the end of the season. Really encourage you to get down to the stadium, get right behind the team, because they need absolutely everything you can give them at this moment in time. And if it's anything like Saturday just there, I'm sure they'll repay your faith that you're showing in them, and hopefully we can get a big result. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. We really appreciate you tuning in every week, and we'd love to hear your feedback. You can leave us a review on iTunes or drop us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, so simply search for Talk Livi to find us. You will find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well, and any shares or likes are always appreciated. All our episodes are available on all the usual podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, and we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in as always, and let's hope for another great week following the Lothian's finest football team.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Amberville. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Amberville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premiership.